What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the stream. It's Tuesday. We're getting tactical. Welcome back to another regularly scheduled Tactical Tuesday show. Inky's here, and she's might come visit. Please don't knock anything over, Inky. Oh, God. Yikes. Cat, you're a nightmare. All right. Just kidding. No Inky today. Maybe she'll be back. We'll see. How's it going, everyone in chat? What's up? We're gonna be talking about some Nephilim today. I know it's Arks of Omen time, but we got a couple events over the last couple weeks, so we can kind of give Nephilim a little bit of a send off. So I think that we're gonna be probably doing I don't know. We'll make it kind of a low key stream. If we want to talk about some Arks of Omen stuff, we can do that. But for the most part, I think we're just gonna be reviewing some of the final lists from Nephilim. I think giving a little bit of a send off to the format. Talking about our favorite stuff from the format. And yeah, getting back into the normal routine of talking about events that we haven't done in a couple weeks just because there's been no events to talk about. Turns out, all these holidays, people rather spend time with their families than play Warhammer 40,000. Are you kidding me? Absolutely incorrect call. So that's what's up. That's what's going on. There go Matthew in chat. What's up? How's it going? CAK, can you get some sympathy for your death card? Oh my god. There's an interesting, I mean, this always happens, right? You should sort of expect it. But everyone kind of has this feeling that Arks of Omen's going to be so good for their little pet factions. And it can't be true for everyone. I think Death Guard lost the most. Losing Armor of Contempt sucked for them, obviously, and then I don't think like their secondaries got buffed slightly, but I don't think it was enough to really change the dynamic of the faction. So I have a tough time seeing that Death Guard are the one that sort of got out unopposed, undeterred. I don't know what the right word there is. Michael DLT memed it up at a tournament last weekend. It did seem like there was a lot of memeing going on for the last couple weeks here. So, well, we'll get to talk about that, which is, I don't know, kind of exciting. Yeah, so we can kind of jump into it if people are ready to go. There is a link to the website. I know like at least 4 people are going to ask questions today about how to get to this list compilation website. There is a link down there in the video description. So hopefully you can find that, and then that'll be good. Leave your families play more 40k over Christmas this coming year. That man, that's my New Year's resolution. I'm gonna not spend any time with my family. Only 40k now. So let's just dive in. Let's go. So first one. I should open this in a new tab. First one for, this was actually last year, December 28th, just a couple days after Christmas. Kasezi over here with Emperor's Children is a member of the Discord server with the Mixed Heretic Astartes list, the mostly normal Emperor's Children stuff with Abaddon in tow as well. I think pretty standard classic stuff. We have the pink Black Rune of Damnation Terminator squad today. Oh, excuse me. The Black Rune of Damnation on the Possessed squad. The Terminators are just by themselves. And then we're only at 4 Noise Marines, but that's fine. Master of Possession for all the buffs and a Dark Apostle to buff up that Terminator squad. So the Dark Apostle plus Terminator squad is kind of the core combo, especially in a Slaanesh army, because if the Dark Apostle has Mark of Slaanesh, then he can use which he does, he can use the ability to make the Chaos Terminator squad advance and charge, which is kind of alongside Honor the Prince to give them that auto 6 on their charge roll. They actually go pretty far, which is pretty exciting. How do you get there? Pasha, I hope you hope you figured it out. And then that brings us on to the new year. So congratulations to Kasezi. Leotis Competitive League. Looks like, is it Ultramarines? You have an Ultramarines for X and 1? Oh my god. Shit, how did I not see this? This is sick. Are you kidding me? Incredible. Ultramarines X1. It's pure Ultramarines, no successor, so we're not doing like redeploy shenanigans. We do, yeah, not even in a Victor Warsuit in this list. Wild. So it's Tigurius, a Primaris Tech Marine with Rights of War, Seal of Oath. No, Awaken the Ancients. We have Double Incursor Intercessors and Assault Intercessors. Extra troops in a Space Marine list, chat. Wild. 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, 1 Relic Contemptor Dreadnought, Twin Volkite Culverin. So that's what we're going to be using to sit next to Rabuti Gilliman. 2 units of Vextrix Honor Guard. I know these guys are sweet. They got a little bit of a points break in the Arcs of Moment update as well. So I think we're going to be, I don't know, Vextrix Honor Guard seem like pretty good. I don't know if we're going to see Ultramarines so much because I think other Space Marine chapters dramatically outshadow them, but these ones get Tigurius and Gilliman, so that's the Beth there. And then Elims, Double Eradicators, plus the G-Man himself. This list is cool. Mostly just a big Dreadnought brick. 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, the Honor Guard. I believe that these guys had they're a little bit worse, hence the points break in the new version, because I think these guys have the Borked Armor of Contempt, where despite the fact they have a Storm Shield, it's like a special Victrix Storm Shield, and so it doesn't get exempted from Armor of Contempt, so they have a 1+, 3+ invulnerable, which makes them extremely hard to kill. They've lost that, obviously, since everything lost Armor of Contempt, so they go down to a base 2+ armor save, which is still fine. When you're on a 3+ invulnerable save, all the AP2 weapons are going to be shredding Space Marines for now. Not quite as dangerous to Victor's Honor Guard. Inky's having a little freak out down here. I'm sorry, we're not paying attention to you. I bet we can entice Inky back onto the cat cam with some treats. You want some Cheetos? Yeah, you do. Look at you. Here you go, girl. Let's get that camera going. There she comes. What's up, Inky? It's the House Tigurius of the studio. We have a Harlequins here. This is Dark Sadeth, interestingly. So we got our +1 EP going on, which I know was relatively popular to defeat Armor of Contempt, but not super exciting. 3 Star Weavers, 3 Void Weavers, 3 Sky Weavers. That's a nice little symmetry there. I like that. And then 4 5er Harlequin troops with Neuro Disruptors, and then 2 10s. It looks like. Got that Inky hydrant going on. We gotta get an emote for Inky, I think. All right, chat. And then last but certainly not least, Imperial Knights. We have a lot of Imperial Knights to talk about today, actually, which is pretty fun. Because we had a ton of them come out. For the last couple of weeks, had a ton of Imperial Knights for whatever reason. And I think, if you watched my tier list video that came out earlier today, you probably know that I think Imperial Knights are going to be pretty strong in this coming season. And I think I should probably learn exactly what they do. Because it is too complicated for me. I think I was sort of mulling it over today. I think this is maybe the single most complicated faction of 40k. People could say like, oh, command phase in, Adeptus Mechanicus is complicated, but realistically, you just have to point at units to give your buffs to, right? Whereas the pre-game and like list construction for Imperial Knights is insane, because you have your sub-faction ability to pick. Then in addition to your sub-faction, you have to pick your 2 Chivalric Oaths. Each of those Chivalric Oaths, so your sub-faction gets an ability based on the sub-faction, and then an ability based on the type of sub-faction it is, whether it's Questor Mechanicus or Questor Imperialis. Then you pick your 2 Chivalric Oaths. Each of the Chivalric Oaths has 3 separate abilities you have to keep in mind. To be fair, and then this one's different, right? This one has defend the realm, protect those in need, paladin only, and then refuse a challenge. Yes, this is a free blade lands. So we're like one level even more complicated. Then on top of that, right, you have your chapter command upgrades, whatever they're called, I forget, plus the bondsman abilities on the large knights. Plus, you then have your warlord traits and relics on top of all those things, and then you compound that all with 3 blade lands to give individual upgrades to every single one of these units. It's wild. So, it's too much for me, I think. It's Kudos to all of the Imperial Knights players who can keep it straight in their head. Oh my god, I don't know if I can. Anyway, we'll move on from this one. We're going to be sitting here talking about individual sub-faction abilities on every one of these armatures for a while if we don't move on. So we're going to nip that one in the bud. Say a little bit of a typo here. Joshua Brody. So I think we have Joshua Brody and Jeremy Brody at this event. This might be the most fun name of an event that I've seen in a while. Exterminatus 6: Return of the Noodle. I don't know. There's a joke there. I don't know what it is, but it sounds fun. It makes me want to go to the event just to find out what the noodles is. And this is a mixed Tzeentch list at 4-1 from Joshua Brody. I imagine that these are brothers, probably, right? Jeremy and Joshua? That would make sense. And they probably get a lot of practice time against each other, which is why they're probably pretty strong. Hey, Inky, what do you hear us talking about mixed Tzeentch? And you're like, oh, no, not that list. Good thing that got a little bit of a nerf. So Ahriman, Exalted Sorcerer, Inferno Master, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units of Rubric Marines, 1 Scarab Cult Terminator, 3 individual Chaos Spawn. So no Chaos Spawn bricks today, only the individuals. To do backline screening and grab objectives and stuff like that. And then it looks like 3 units of 4 Flamers with a Change Caster for the... Oh, we didn't even stock Infernal Flames on him. Okay. Interesting picks here for this list. This is mostly a normal Tzeentch list, but there's a little spice in there, I guess. This is a very offensive Changecaster. The problem is the Changecaster doesn't have any bonuses to cast, so it's trying to throw like 7s and 8s on Bolt of Change and Infernal Gateway, and that seems real tough. When you could just be casting I think it's a 6 for Infernal Flames for +1 to wound on the Flamer units. But if you have small Flamer units, you're not necessarily losing too much if you don't have the big 6ers. We do have a Tyranids here. Not much Tyranids this week. Because, I don't know, at tail end of Nephilim, they weren't doing that hot. They were doing fine. They were just above a 50% win rate. But compared to how they were doing previously, Tyranids were falling off the bandwagon pretty hard. So this is a naturalized camouflage, so +1 save in cover. With its High Fleet Behemoth, so +1 strength on charge. Foot Hive Tyrant with direct guidance. 1 Neurothrope, 15 Hormagaunts. Interesting. We're going to see a lot more of those coming out of Tyranid lists coming soon, I think. 1 unit of Venothropes, 1 unit of Zoanthropes, 3 Biovores, 10 Raveners, 2 units of 5 with Rending Claws. So that gets everyone, because the Rending Claws are +1 strength and the High Fleet Behemoth is +1 strength on charge, it gets you to strength 7, which is great, and then you can give +1 to wound on them. So they're the highest damage Raveners that the faction can bring to bear, which is solid. And then we have the same detachment out of a 2nd patrol. The Winged Hive Tyrant, 1 unit of 5 Tyranid Warriors. It is a Reaper of Obliterax Hive Tyrant. Oh, Rowan, what are you doing? And then Death Leaper with Alien Cunning. We have Tyrant Guard in this list, right? Yeah, there you go. Tyrant Guard with Sliding Talons. This seems pretty cool. I do like the Behemoth Ravener build. It's unfortunate for Raveners. R.I.P. Raveners. But I think it's interesting because the downside of Raveners is occasionally they're a little swingy. They occasionally just bounce off of things, and giving it all of the buffs that High Fleet Behemoth gives it is amazing. But the difference is obviously between that and High Fleet Kraken is Kraken can compound all of the offense that you can't do in High Fleet Behemoth. Putting out hopes that High Fleet Gorgon becomes meta. I think it is. I think we're already there. It sort of feels to me like we're either in Behemoth or Gorgon. And there probably are some other sub-factions, like maybe Jormungandr has some play or something, but I think that one of those that makes the smaller bugs a little bit more powerful is probably how Tyranids are going to be angling. But as I said in my ranking video, I don't think it really gets them like past above average. I think they end up being like a gatekeeper. Can you deal with all these Hormagaunts like running and stealing your objectives? And if you can, you win. Congratulations. If you can't, oh well, you get swarmed on primary. So they feel like a real good X and 1, X and 2 kind of faction for the going into the future, which is really unfortunate. So the other Brody with Chaos Knights here. This is House Herpatrax. So tough boys to kill. 6+ damage ignore and +1 wound. This is the Abaddon's Walking the Dogs list. So Abaddon the Despoiler in a Black Legion Supreme Command, plus a bunch of Warthogs. Good stuff. Unfortunately for that, I think this list has been largely removed. Although it sounds like the combo that we're doing now is bringing Abaddon in a Demons detachment alongside of Arcs of Omen detachment. I'm not entirely sure that works, but maybe. It's very confusing. I guess because I think it requires Abaddon to be the Warlord, then he gets Ages of Chaos, so he doesn't change the faction of your detachment. It's very confusing. Faction keyword rules are unfortunately very poorly thought out in Warhammer 40,000. But what about Custodians? I appreciate the Custodians meme is staying alive. I like that. I'm sure we'll get to some Custodians. Probably. Oh, we have some Custodians. We do have Custodians up here. DEF CON 2023. I think this is an interesting event because it just had some of the wildest factions come out of the woodwork, so that's very exciting. We had an Astra Militarum here. It looks like this is new Militarum, right? Because it's command squads in HQ, right? Yeah. Oh, and it has a finial of the Nemrodesh first, of course. What a disgusting relic. So we have armored superiority, so that is vehicles count as 5 models, I believe, for holding objectives. I'm gonna double check that, chat. But then you can compound that with the buff to give vehicles objective secured from the tank commanders. They can pulse out OBSEC. Yeah, so Sentinels count as 3 models. Other vehicles count as 5. Titanic counts as 10. I don't believe we are bringing any Titanic units today. No, just Lehman Russ battle tanks and Telrox. And then our other one is Swift is the Wind. So +1 movement to infantry and artillery models, +2 movement to all other models, and +1 charge for all units. And then we're bringing just a big gaggle of Tempestus Scions and Khazarkan units. Is that what we're doing? So we have a ton of armored sentinels. Looks like 3 armored sentinels with plasma cannons, 50 points apiece for those little guys. They're like T6, 6 wounds, right? And they have a 3 damage plasma cannon. 2 damage plasma cannon, excuse me. T6, 7 wounds. Look at that. And then they count as 3 models, and you can pulse out objective secured because they are squadroned. So that's solid. So that's good. They're only 8-inch move, but you can, with the +1 move, like they get a little bit of a bump there. +1 move and +1 to charge, so they're effectively moving like 10 plus a charge. So they can run out and grab people's objectives away if you order them to be objective secured. So there's a little bit of a disruptive element there. 2 scout sentinels with plasma cannons, and another one in the singleton. Is this a brigade? No, it's a battalion. Okay. Just wondering. I guess we're just filling up all of our slots. Oh yeah, there's only 3 troops. There's a bunch of elites. So it's a Tempestus command squad, 2 tank commanders, 3 units of Cadian shock troopers, 1 unit of Khazarkan. So we can wombo combo off the Khazarkan Doom combo to shoot somebody for 18 mortal wounds. The Barbican's key, so we get a once per game redeploy. So we can dump orders on them to get additional shots. And then I don't know if we have re-rolls really sourced anywhere though. There's no Lord Solar in this unit, so they're not quite as effective as they normally would be. I imagine that they have elite sharpshooters. That's interesting. So they have a floating reroll in the unit, but no born soldiers, so we don't get the 5+ auto wounds. So this is like a little bit of a low power Khazarkan team, I guess. 1 plasma gun, 1 melta-gun, 2 hotshot volley guns, and then the redeploy. Still pretty lethal for 100 points. Turns out, all that stuff with the 3+ ballistic scale and rerolls and jumping around. It's pretty good. A bunch of Tempestus Scions, which is interesting to see. Double plasma gun, double hotshot volley gun on those guys with power swords, and then the 3 armored sentinel. So 6 total sentinels, 3 total Lehman Russ battle tanks, and 1 Taurox. Luminous battle tanks, executioner plasma cannons, and plasma cannons on the side, and a las cannon on the front too. Damn, we went all in on these Leman Russ. That's intense. Incredible. It's not a meme. It's your normal question for Custodes stuff. For sure. Absolutely. This list looks amazing. I don't know about all these Tempestus We could turn those into Kazarkin. Probably have a better time. But I like the combination of the armored superiority plus Swift as a Wind is pretty solid. And you can even get like a little one of the elite or one of the smaller characters and give them the Warlord trait to know vehicle orders as well, and you have an additional source of that OBSEC for the vehicles. So you can actually sort of OBSEC you can OBSEC the Sentinels sort of more flexibly. I think there's a lot of combos there. You can make that style of game plan work. I'm a little worried it gives up Bring It Down, because you give up 6 for the Sentinels, 6 for the Leman Russ, and then 2 for each of the tank commanders. So you could maybe cut like 1 Leman Russ, make it a little bit worse for your opponent, but it's probably fine. I don't know how many armies kill all 11 of those vehicles. All right, so then the 5-0 from this event is Adeptus Sororitas. It's Bloody Rose. Double Sacrifice is a little bit interesting, but otherwise it's Bloody Rose. Good stuff. Double Rhinos, double Retributors, triple Zephyrum. We get the meme in chat to be shocked that there are Rhinos in a Sororitas list. Finally, can we do that? So good stuff. Greatest name and event ever. Twisted Warp 2 had some interesting finalists, interesting finishes. Aiden Brocklewurst, what a name! That's a good, strong Christian name. With mostly Bloody Rose, good stuff. Marvin Vol, Canoness, a Palatine, but then it's the double big Battle Sister squad, so we can use the we have Artificer Crafted Stormbolter, so we can use the stratagem to do mortal wounds with them. And then we have one with double multi-meltas. There's a Hospitaller in this list, so we can potentially like take massive casualties in the Battle Sister squads, just leave a couple of them alive, and then regenerate the multi-meltas back to the unit with the Hospitaller. So basically trying to survive on objectives. I'm not sure that these units are quite as playable in Arcs of Omen, because they lose Armor of Contempt, so they don't go down to a 1+ save and cover, they go down to a 2+. So it means that, especially like doctrined Space Marines are just going to rip apart a Battle Sister squad like that. But we'll see. We'll see how they go. They really only need to activate like 2 times to get enough damage out of the Artificer Stormbolters and hold an objective, probably. And then they're probably worth their points cost, which is pretty high. 250 for 20 Battle Sisters is a lot. They also kind of slap, though, especially if you give them like Morphin rerolls and their Bloody Rose for +1 attack. So it's not that bad. We do have Alex Chancellor here with Orks. We're playing Deathskulls today, so full army OBSEC on all the infantry. Beast Boss and Squigosaur, a weird boy. 2 units of 10 Beast Snagas. Are we going in kill rigs? Yeah, we are. Nice. 3 units of Gretchen. Get some get those good bits. 2 units of Commandos. I love these Commandos. It's so much forward pressure. They're objective secured. They disrupt scoring in such a huge way. This army's a nightmare to play against, by the way, chat. If you haven't experienced this Deathskulls army before, it actually makes you want to actively pull your hair out. So not only do they have, obviously like there's the Orc top of 2 pressure where they call WA and then they can basically, they threat from the just outside the deployment line to like anywhere on the table. Between Storm Boys and Kill Rigs and models coming out of Kill Rigs, but then on top of that, almost everything that is charging that far is objective secured. So if they get the top of turn 2 WA, unlike Goffs, which like hit you and like hammer you and try to beat you down, Deathskulls are just going to steal every objective that you have. So you're like on your goose egged on primary, like turn 2, and then if you can extricate yourself, you might get a 4, but they have like another wave of infantry coming back behind. Yeah, there's more Mega Knobs, there's more Storm Boys, and there's probably the boys coming out of the kill rigs. So they have like 2 to 3 turns where they can just continuously out-obsec you on your home objectives, and it's so bad, and especially if you're reliant on really defensive secondaries, like, you can think of things like Stubborn Defiance, like Raise the Banners High. These Deathskulls infantry just get everywhere. Suddenly you don't have any of your objectives, and those that game plan just falls apart. So this list is actually, I rate this list very highly. Despite it doesn't have as good results as the Goffs list, but I rate it just about as highly as the Goffs list. It doesn't do as much damage, doesn't do nearly as much damage, but the amount of primary objective control it has is insane. It's super solid. I'm really interested to see how Orks make it out of Arks of Omen. I have no idea what they're going to look like, but they seem just fine. Like, their secondaries remain the same for the most part. They got a couple points breaks. There might be some vehicle lists, it sounds like could be good for Orks, so I'm kind of interested to see. We have a Genestealer Cult here. Ooh, so we have a custom to I think that's supposed to be good. Custom to Toil. It's okay. That's Stalwart. Industrial Affinity, so ignore hit penalties on industrial weapons. War Convoy for the 6-up damage ignore on vehicles and bikes. Synaptic Resonance is one that I do not know, though. Genestealer Cult players. I thought we had locked down the sub-faction that we were playing. Why do we keep changing things? So I have to look up what you do again. Synaptic Resonance is reroll dice rolls of 1 or 2. Oh no. That's not good. I don't think that does what you think it does, unfortunately. I think that's borked. So it rerolls double 1s, basically. Not great. That has, unfortunately for a 9th edition codex, that has 8th edition wording. 8th edition psychic test roll was each die, and you added them together, but now in 9th edition psychic dice roll is the sum of both dice. So if the result of your roll is a 2, then you get to reroll it. That might need an FAQ. But I think this is the first time I've ever seen anyone play it. I knew it was a kind of a known issue, because it was the same issue I've talked about in the past with the old 8th edition Neurothrope. Used to have the same wording. It's a little bit borked. That's okay. I imagine they got approval from the TO. So there's a Patriarch, Acolyte Icon Ward, Magus, the Unwilling Orb, so the full board Deny, a Primus, 2 units of Acolyte Hybrids, 3 units of Neophyte Hybrids. We have Seismic Cannons on them? Yeah, 4 Seismic Cannons on each unit. 1 Kellarmorph, 1 Nexos, 1 unit of 10 Pure Strength Genestealers that came from below for the pre-game move. Achilles Ridge Runners with from every angle, so they can bounce out of Strategic Reserve on turn 1. And then 2 big units of Adolin Jackals. So this is a classic Genestealer Cult build. So the Adolin Jackals are here just to tank. They're -1 to be hit, 6 damage ignore. Sometimes you can buff them with a Biophagus if you take one, but it looks like we're not doing that today. And then the Acolyte Icon Ward brings them back to life with Summon the Cult. So they become very difficult to kill. They can hold objectives out in the open just fine. And most armies have to overcommit to kill a full unit of Adolin Jackals, because if you don't, they're going to regenerate pretty precipitously. And then there's like pretty heavy shooting coming from the Achilles Ridge Runners, and then you just have enormous amounts of disruption and sort of primary objective control between the Neophytes and Acolyte Hybrids. And you can pin your opponent in their deployment zone with Pure Strength Genestealers. They come in and just blow somebody up immediately. Love that list. I think Genestealer Cults, they got some additional special weapons in most of their infantry squads. They sort of traded points. The Adolin Jackals got their power weapons for free, but they went up equivalent points value, so they just pay for their power weapons now. But all of their characters went down a couple points, and then all of the infantry units got special weapons for free. So you kind of side grade on your points cost. Their secondaries got dramatically better, and the loss of armor contempt means they do way more damage against most of the armies in the game. So I think Genestealer Cults poised to do very well. I think we're gonna see some Genestealer Cults. They're already putting up some pretty good results, and they're slowly creeping up better and better. And we even have more Genestealer Cults in the next event to talk about. Yeah, I think Orks of Omen, it was just a godsend for them, to be honest. The big downside, my heart goes out to Alex McDougall, I guess, because the big downside is there's no framework to bring Tyranids and Genestealer Cults together in an army list in Orks of Omen, which is a little bit weird, but at least they have they can build for Brood Brothers now. They would get a Brood Brothers detachment for free, so that's something. Dom Maidlow playing Light Sadith Harlequins. He named all of his characters. That's adorable. This is mostly Starweaver stuff. Yeah. The Riddler, a Shadowseer. All right, fair enough. And then James Marsden with Necrons. Very cool. This is a classic OBSEC list. RIP this list, by the way. This is going to be one of the last times we get to talk about this. Having changed the Relentlessly Expansionist Eternal Conqueror sub-faction. Now that you can't take both of them together, you're never going to take Eternal Conquerors. You could take Relentlessly Expansionist as something else, but it's not as good as full army OBSEC. So you just lose this archetype entirely, and you probably move to an army of renown, I think. So it's Silent King in the Supreme Command, and then it is an Outrider with a Chronomancer, Overlord, Hexmark Destroyer, 1 unit of Scorpex, 5 Wraiths, 6 Ophidians. That's a big unit of Ophidians. 2 units of Tomb Blades, 1 Locust Destroyer, 2 Doom Scythes. We're in on the Alpha Strike, ladies and gentlemen, but no Catan Shard of the Deceiver to redeploy those guys. So we're just slapping them on the table and hope our opponent doesn't shoot them, which apparently worked out because James Marsden went 5-0. So congratulations to them. And that moves us on to DEF CON, which I'm very excited to talk about because these lists look pretty fun. We have a Leagues of Votan in the first one. It is Ymir Conglomerate. It is an Outrider detachment, so we're focusing really heavily on Hernkin Pioneers. Look at all those Hernkin Pioneers. Good stuff. Can we look at Chaos Knights list? We looked at the Chaos Knights list earlier, chat. This is a Brokir Forge Master with Master Armorer. 1 unit of Hearthkin Warriors, 5 Chthonian Berserks, 5 Hearthguard with Warp Strike, so they get the redeploy for free once per game. And then 3 units of Hernkin Pioneers. It looks like 2 of 3, excuse me, and then 1 big one of 6. I kind of like this build. You get the utility of the smaller units, so you can use them like the forward deploy, or the pregame move, excuse me, to screen yourself out or to push for objectives. But then you still have this like big hammer unit that once a target stacks judgment tokens on, you can just run out and just pile damage onto them at super duper long threat range. So I think I like this loadout of Hernkin. And then the 2 Sagitors, plus 2 Hecaton land fortresses with conversion beamers. So that unlocks the beamer stratagem for your Ymir Conglomerate to deal mortal wounds every time they hit you. So you can pretty reliably stack 3 or 4 mortals from the conversion beamers for a CP, which is pretty good on top of the normal damage that they do. But I think, given that Sagitors did not change in the points update, I think that we're going to be seeing a lot more Sagitors. Maybe instead of land fortresses, we'll have to see in future lists. I think Sagitors they're just so good for like 130, 140 points, depending on your loadout. They do so much damage. That's a lot of damage, on top of being fast. Bilbo Goranson with a Genestealer Cult. This one is this must be a typo in Battlescribe. Accustomed to turmoil? That's not what it is. It's accustomed to toil. These guys have deep supplies, which gives them a wound reroll every activation. Costs you 2, so you lose your war convoy, and usually like cold-eyed killers is what you take. But getting a free wound roll is pretty good, especially if you're taking sort of an MSU build, which it looks like we're doing here. Yeah, we have units of 10 neophytes with seismic cannon, so we're really trying to get as much use of it as we can out of that. And we have industrial affinity as well to ignore the move and shoot penalty for those guys. So they can pop out of reserve, shoot without penalty, get 1 wound reroll on their like 6 shots that they're shooting on the 2 damage seismic cannon shots. That's 3 units of Acolyte Hybrids, 3. Oh, is this a brigade? Oh my god, it is. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think we've talked about a similar list of this before. So 6 units of neophyte hybrids, 2 units of acolyte hybrids. So we're rocking. It's 1 20-man with perfect ambush, and then we're rocking 10 additional seismic cannons. So we have 14 seismic cannons, and most of them get 1 floating wound reroll. A Reductus Saboteur with Oppressor's Bane. We've talked about that before. It gives you a little bit of a good opportunity to shoot people and get exposed. Pure Strain Genestealers with the pregame move. Nexos, Keller Morph. Little units of Adelan Jackals. 4 Adelan Jackals apiece with power weapons. Amazing. Alongside 3 Goliath Rock Grinders. Yeah, so this is very much just MSU. Not even relying on those Ridge Runners, not those big Adelan Jackal bricks. We're just using MSU small units to jump in, get those exposed tokens on, or excuse me, ambush. What is it? Crossfire tokens. Crossfire tokens and expose opponents. Get huge benefits to these little units and then make the best use out of that. Deep supplies to reroll wounds against them. All right, chat, you ready? We got some Adeptus Custodes happening. Let's do it. Andreas Holm with Adeptus Custodes in Emperor's Chosen. Pure Adeptus Custodes? It is. Gorgeous. That's what you like to see. So it's a Dawn Eagle Shield Captain with Superior Creation. Tip of the Spear. Trajan Valoris as the Warlord. Gorgeous. We love that guy. Big brick of troops here. 3 units of 3 Custodian Guards, 1 Presidium Shield, 2 Guardian Spears. So that gives you a pretty good mix of offense and defense. The shield, you can tow the shield in cover and take all the hits on him because he's a 0+ armor save. And then once you actually get to melee, you really want you want to have those Guardian Spears in there because the Sentinel Blade, I mean, it's fine at melee, but it's not that great. And then 2 units of 3 Sagittarian Custodians. Get that sweet reroll from Emperor's Chosen in there. We have that Venerable Contemptor that we keep talking about. 2 individual Alaris Custodians. So this is we start to get some benefits. What's up, Cat? Cat's on my lap now. We get some benefits here from this when this list converts over to Arcs of Omen, because these individual Alaris Custodians are getting objective secured back. So they're going to be able to steal objectives from people much more effectively. Individual Contemptor Dreadnought. Love that guy. For 155 points with the Multi-Melta and the reroll. Pretty solid. The Vexillus Praetor with a Magnifica, so might as well hit. 3 Virtus Praetors in 1 unit. Interestingly, just 1 unit of Virtus Praetors, 1 unit of Witch Seekers. Love that. They have a pregame move and Flamethrowers, so they can score you your Recover the Relics turn 1. It's one of the only ways that Custodians have to score that. To get the command point on turn 1. They give you a little bit of screening. They're solid sort of charge blocker because you don't want to charge into 5 flamethrowers. And they just seem a pretty solid utility unit. They can also, if your opponent has like Rangers or something, like really light stuff that you don't want to commit a Custodian squad to go kill, but you have to deal with it on turn 1 before it starts like scouting the enemy and getting a billion points, you can just have this Witch Seeker squad, pregame move, advance, shoot it to death, done. Fire and forget. And then a Caladius Grav Tank with a Blaze Cannon. Blaze, not Accelerator. Nice. All right. Good stuff. There's a little bit focused on troops in this list, which is interesting. I believe Ty in the finals here with Kale Abrahamson. Or Kale? I don't know. Kale? Call? Maybe it's Call. That sounds pretty fun. This is Grey Knights. We had a big discussion about Grey Knights in the Discord today and how they're going to look in the new season. I am not giving them too much credit, but maybe Call here is going to show me up because he did go undefeated in this event, or they did go undefeated in this event. 1 Nemesis Dread Knight Grandmaster, Sigil of Exigence, Undying Anvil, or Unyielding Anvil, excuse me, which is the Obsec Aura. And then it looks like 3 strike squads. They've got Spards and Heelbarder. That's cool. 3 units of interceptors, 2 with swords, 1 with halberds. To combat squad out into 6 individual units, and then 3 Nemesis Dread Knights. This is a very classic build. It also has a Tech Marine, so it must be in... Oh, and a Chaplain. So it must be in... what's it called? Subfaction. Something of Prophecy. To give them the Foretelling ability. And then they also have the 1 CP reroll will hit ones to hit and wound for a Psyker. So you can use that on the Dread Knights. So once the Dread Knights are off doing their own thing, they can get all the benefits of being standing next to a character for just the low cost of 1 command point. Good stuff. It looks like a pretty tight event. To tie in the finals is pretty solid. Peterborough Slam. We got a Dark Angels at X and 1. So Chaos Knights here from Kevin Nichols. There you go, chat. We got another Chaos Knights to talk about. House Vextrix today. I don't know if I've ever seen a House Vextrix on the table. So that is a demonic household, so we can upgrade our guys for mortal wounds. And then we have they get a old school master artisan reroll, 1 hit and 1 wound roll every fight activation. So it looks like 1 brigand squad of 3, 1 with Helm of Dogs, 1 of 3 with no upgrades, 1 individual carnivore, and then 2 stalker squadrons. Oh, okay. So it's just all those guys. Fair enough. All right. Not too much going on here. One of them, the carnivore, has the heretic power core, so he's +2 movement. So I think he gets him to 14. Is that right? Because the carnivores, I think, have a higher base speed. Or excuse me, they start at 14. They go to 16. Hey, that's pretty far. And then gets +1 damage on its non-sweep attack. So it goes to 4 flat damage on its Talon, or its Claw goes to D3 +4. It's worth the CP, I think. That's a House Vextrix specific ability. And then obviously gets that floating reroll as well. So yeah, kind of a walking the dogs list, but we forgot the dog walker at home. Who needs it? We got all those built-in rerolls from the sub-faction ability. I think you're okay. That's a pretty cool list. Alan Percival. Oh man, it's Percival. His name is Percival, and he's playing the Knights faction. Are you kidding me? That's. Do you think he picked his army to, based on his name? Somebody was like, my guy. There's a Arthurian chivalric faction in 40k. It's called Dark Angels. You should play it. I guess you could also play Imperial Knights, right? That's the other one. They actually literally have chivalry stuff, but they don't have literal knights. So this one works pretty well too. My headcanon's gonna be that he picked them solely on the fact that they're very knight themed. All right, so this looks like a Deathwing list. Yeah, so we have a Deathwing Ancient. We're bringing Ezekiel, which is good. That guy's sweet. A regular Interrogator Chaplain, excuse me, with a Canticle of Hate and Wise Warrior. So sort of just a standard Master of Sanctity build. 1 unit of 3 Blade Guard veterans, 2 Deathwing Command Squad members with Thunderhammer Storm Shield. This guy's got he's gonna be 60 points pretty soon. Oh boy. A big unit of 10 Deathwing Knights with a Watcher in the Dark. And another unit of standard Deathwing Terminators. Looks like a mix of Chain Fists, Cyclone Missile Launchers, Storm Shields, and Thunderhammers. Second build of the same loadout, and 1 Ravenwing Apothecary with Reliquary of the Repentant, Selfless Healer. So this is a very classic Deathwing brick. This is 32, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 32 Terminators, 3 Blade Guard veterans, and then the guy to bring them back. But this list is going to get a massive bump in the new update. And then last but certainly not least, Jack Tight Skowky from the Discord. T5S2 Season 2 champion, by the way. Pretty cool. Here playing Chaos Demons. This was a Disciples of Bellacor, I think, actually, yeah. And so there's a little discussion in the Discord, sort of inspired me to break out Disciples of Bellacor in the faction breakdown. But I think, given the fact that mono demons are going to have a hard time unlocking allegiance abilities regardless, and you want to bring mixed demon armies or mixed demon detachments, Disciples of Bellacor feels more powerful as you move along into Arks of Omen. So Bellacor himself is in there. He's got his Warlord trait, so it gets rerolls to a core unit. Or to just, I think, it's non-vehicle Disciple unit, right? If you're in the Army of Renown. I know he doesn't give it to himself, I don't believe, because he for whatever reason he himself is not a his own disciple. Yeah, it's core or Disciples of Bellacor unit excluding vehicles, but it is a 9-inch command phase ability. I nailed it. Sweet. This is a patrol detachment. We have 1 unit of Bloodletters. So this does unlock core and Warpstorm abilities, I believe. And then we have a mixed detachment. This is a Vanguard with a Changecaster, Transweaver, 1 unit of Nurglings. Get that Recover the Relic going. Boop. 2 units of Flamers, so 10 total Flamers. 1 unit of 5 Fiends, 1 unit of 3 Beasts of Nurgle, 1 Skull Cannon, and then a super heavy auxiliary. This is the House Corvax one that Disciples of Bellacor gives you access to, which gives with 3 War Dog Brigands. That's a wild list. So focusing pretty heavily on, or not focusing heavily on the Demon Infantry, but we're getting our objective secured, I believe, from the from the War Dogs. They're going to be able to provide that to the Demon, the really aggressive Demon pieces. So you can have like Beast of Nurgle sort of body blocking for Armigers, or for War Dogs, excuse me, on an objective. And if you're melee oriented, you have to deal with the Beast of Nurgle. Obviously, if you don't kill them, they heal back up to full. And then they're just these big old bases that stand in the way and protect the objective secured on an objective. So that seems really sick. Plus, obviously, Zinch Flamers. You know, pretty good. Glass City GT, this is a big one. I think this was 60 players. Probably the biggest one of the weekend, if I remember correctly. This past weekend, we had some Adeptus Sororitas. This is just Bloody Rose stuff. It is. Nice. Good stuff. Some Ynnari. Interesting stuff. A big unit of Warlock Skyrunners, 1 Farseer, 1 Shadowseer, the Incarn itself. 1 unit of Campbellite Warriors, 2 units of Rangers, 1 Striking Scorpions, 1 Howling Banshees, 1 individual Warlock to be character, 3 Shroud Runners, a Falcon, support weapon team, Hemlock Wraithfighter, Void Raven Bomber, and Behareth in an auxiliary support detachment. I do wonder if, now that we are in Arks of Omen, you can't bring Behareth anymore. You don't have access to auxiliary supports. So I think that is a blow to Ynnari. I don't know if I really considered that when I was doing my faction breakdown. That might bump Ynnari down a peg, actually. As your Yanni. I guess like you trade Behareth for Incarn. Either one of those is going to be pretty solid, but not having the ability to take both is unfortunate. Lyle Dixon here with Tau Empire. Congratulations to Lyle. Is a Farsight Enclaves list with Farsight himself, Cold Star Commander, 10 Groot, 2 units of little Crisis teams, a regular Crisis Battlesuit unit with Burst, Ion Blaster, double Burst and Ion Blasters, and then a Bodyguard unit as well. 1 Riptide Battletoot, 2 Sun Sharks, then a second Patrol with another Commander. RIP that triple Commander build, by the way. You're capped at 2 now for Tau Empire. The benefit of, obviously, a Farsight Enclaves is that you got 2 Commanders per detachment, so you could take 2 in one and 1 in the other, or you could take 4 if you wanted to, for whatever reason. And that's much harder to do now because it's impossible. Actually, you just can't do that. You can only have 2. So that was a big benefit of Farsight Enclaves, where you could have an Exemplar of the Monka on Farsight. You could then have a Precision of the Hunter guy, and then you could also have a Kalyan guy who's just a little bit more support oriented, and now you can only have 2 of those. You can still bring like a Fireblade or an Ethereal, not Ethereal, I guess, a Fireblade, or a Firesight Marksman with whichever support Warlord trait you want, but it's just not the same. We have a Crisis Battlesuit team with Burst Cannon, Cyclic Ion, and Plasma. These guys probably deep strike and unlock the drop zone clear, so they can get full rerolls against something when they come in. But there is no stealth team in the unit or in the army, so we don't get the turn 1 drop. There's 2 Sunshark Bombers. I think we talked about those before. A bunch of Groot Hounds and some more Groot Carnivores. Classic. It'll be interesting to see what wins out now that the Commanders and the Crisis Battlesuits are going up in points. The Sunshark Bombers lost a lot of their efficiency because they don't have the ability to Alpha Strike anymore, which is kind of, in Tau specifically, why you're bringing them. Because Tau, if your opponent has good line of sight blocking terrain, Tau really needed, like, they don't have much that, like, pushes through the middle of the table, and the Bombers gave them that, so they could poke at your opponent if they decided to stay very conservative. I think, like, if one faction in the game really kind of needed aircraft, it did feel sort of like Tau. I think the part where Tau kind of borked them was exemplar of the Kalyan, so they could just play them however they wanted, basically, depending on how the first turn roll-off went. And that was unfortunate for the Sunshark Bombers because it got aircraft nerfed pretty hard. But, I don't know, I think it's okay. Jonathan DeLeo going to your last RTT with Nephilim on Saturday, bringing in boys for one last ride. What should you bring? One last ride before the nerf? Bring, like, Mortal Wound spam, dude. Get all the Zoanthropes in there before they go up to an unplayable points level. That's the thing I think I'll miss the most, is the ability to do Mortal Wounds consistently. Because it does, I mean, you can still bring, like, a bunch of characters. You can, like, I think a lot of lists are going to be, like, Turbigon, double Tyrant, 1 Neurothrope, or double Neurothrope, double Tyrant, or something like that. And you'll still have a lot of regular smites, but it's just not the same as throwing, like, 2 or 3 Mortal Wound bricks from those Zoanthrope units downrange. You could play, like, the, what is it, Synaptic Ganglia, the +3 inches on Psychic Powers sub-faction. Play, like, you could play, like, Zoanthrope Drop Pods. That's an archetype that I miss. You take, like, a Tyrannocyte, and you put two units of Zoanthropes in it. And then basically, as soon as your opponent has, like, a hard target that's exposed, you can just jump in and drill down, like, 14 Mortal Wounds onto it. Alright, we have a Leagues of Votan in second place. John DeFrank playing Greater Thurian League. With a Forge Master, Uthar the Destined, 10 Hearthkin Warriors, 2 units of Berserks, 3 Sagittor, 8 TVs, 1 Grimnir, 10 more Hearthkin Warriors, 10 Chthonian Berserks. So triple Berserks. Hot damn. And 3 units of Hearthkin Pioneers, 4 Pioneers apiece. 15 Chthonian Berserks to go into these Sagittors. So we're not playing a land fortress. So Uthar, we don't have the Uthar combo with a land fortress, unfortunately. But I think that's probably fine. He can just do his thing elsewhere. I think it's okay. But we are, like, pushing that Greater Thurian League reroll pretty hard because we get that on so many individual units. Flyrant, Spore Mines, Zoanthropes, and Foot Tyrant. Synaptic Ganglia. Yorm was exactly what you were thinking. Perfect. We're in the same boat. Yeah, I guess play your Spore Mines too. It's like the last time that you get to play the Spore Mine generators. It's unfortunate. R.I.P. those guys. And then Tom Ogden here, the Tau aficionado himself. I'm interested to see what Tom Ogden comes up with for Tau in the Arcs of Omen season, because it does change Tau quite a bit, not being able to put Shadow Sun in a Supreme Command, being restricted on the number of commanders you can take. It's gonna, and then plus obviously points hikes on the army. I think it's gonna change a lot how you play Tau, but I think if anybody can continue to X and O with Tau, it's Tom. So he's running Shadow Sun, a Kroot Shaper in a Patrol with a Cold Star Commander and Long Strike, 1 unit of Carnivores, 2 big units of Crisis Battlesuits, 1 Riptide, 2 Sunsharp Bombers. It's pretty straightforward. Not even triple Riptide. Just a bunch of Crisis Battlesuits. Alright, fair enough. A couple more events to talk about. We got some Black Templars up in here. 2 Black Templars over here for Grimdark New Year. Zach Rockner with Creations of Bile. Mostly normal Creations of Bile stuff, I guess. With Abaddon the Despoiler in it. R.I.P. that combo. Can't do that anymore. I'm sorry, buddy. Oh, there are a lot of little Votan mirrors there. They deserve each other, you know? These guys get to... They get to roll unrerollable wound rolls into opposing Void Armor all day. They can just do that and love it. John Sweet playing Black Templars. An Inquisitor. Oh, excuse me. Grimaldus, Helbrecht. 1 Infiltrator, Intercessor, Assault Intercessor. 1 of each. An Apothecary. 1 Blade Guard Veteran Squad. A 5-man. With the Sword of Judgment and Champion of the Feast. So he gets +1 weapon skill, wounded attack, I believe. And the Sword of Judgment is a 3 damage power sword. And then obviously with the Apothecary and the Crusader's Helm to increase the range of its damage ignore aura, you can just bring that guy back to life infinitely. And then we also have a Terminator Assault Squad with the Crix Obsidian. So the guy who carries that's -1 damage. So you can have him eat a bunch of the low damage hits. And then, again, if they kill him, you bring him back to life, sort of permanently. 3 Redemptor Dreadnoughts, mostly just to brick up with Helbrecht and get rerolls and be solid. And that's pretty straightforward. I like that. I like that we're not all in on melee. I think that is... Sometimes you see Black Templars lists when they have like a single shooting unit. They're like, well, it took 1 unit of Eradicators. That'll be good, right? And your opponent's like, I'll hide from that. And they're like, oh no. I have to kill you with chainswords now. That's all I got going for me. Classic Chaos Demons here. Ooh, a Shalaxi Hellbane coming out of the woodwork. So 1 Bellacor. No Shrouded Step? What are we doing? Bellacor, what are you doing? There's 3 Hellflayers in this list. What is this list? So it's Bellacor, Devastating Blow, and... Indomitable Onslaught Bloodthirster with Blood Drinker Talisman. So he ignores damage ignore rolls. He has a 8 wound face cap and then can heal damage. I didn't find that healing damage was as useful without the 5-up damage ignore, because then you got basically another 30% back for every wound that you healed, and it was hard enough to heal wounds on that guy. But maybe it's just that he's doing so much damage with Devastating Blow that it's fine. And then 3 units of Demonettes, 3 units of Flamers, 3 Hellflayers, 1 Burning Chariot. Pretty straightforward. There's no Infernal Flames, and there's no Shrouded Step in this list. Are we even Flamer comboing? This feels like a list where Carter here was like, I bet Flamer's gonna get nerfed. I'm gonna stop playing them for a while. Morg Purry. Imagine this is a little Mark Perry action. Playing Blood Axes with 2 Shock Attack Gun Big Macs. What? War Boss and Mega Armor, 3 units of Gretchen, 3 units of Commandos. They do have that. They do have synergy with Blood Axes, right? Because they have the Fight Last stratagem if you're in cover. I believe that is the synergy. Because the Blood Axes already get +1 to wound if they're in cover. Or the Commandos already get +1 to wound if they're in cover, and the Blood Axes... Oh, maybe not. I'm not sure what the interaction there is. Just kidding. I thought that they had a Fight Last stratagem. Is that just a... Commando stratagem? That they all have? Someone definitely told me that was Blood Axes only. Or maybe I'm thinking... Is it Snake Bites? Maybe it's Snake Bites. I'm thinking of the wrong one. No, Snake Bites has the Transhuman, right? Am I just like, is the Orc community going to come out with pitchforks for forgetting what all of their sub-factions do? Oh no, Snake Bites have a Deny. What am I thinking of? I don't know. I have no idea, chat. Huh. Well, I'm sorry. Well, it gets cover, I guess. So that's cool. Pretty good for all these mega knobs. Go to a 1+ save. 2 battle wagons to carry him around in. Unit of death dreads. This list is wild. Whoa. Another shock attack gun Big Mac with extra cunning. Shows how much I see blood axes on the table, chat. Oh, these guys have a codex supplement. I think I was just reading through the normal sub-faction abilities on Waha here, chat, and I think I just missed all of them. Yes, so the Blood Axes do have the 1 CP you fight last against the Commandos unit. If they're in terrain, that's good. And then one of these guys gets a reduced cost on strategic ploys. One of them gets to pick boys or commandos that are within terrain feature that become untargetable by enemy ranged attacks that are not within 12 inches. That's this one. And then the other guy has a 3-unit redeploy before at the start of the first battle round. Interesting that we're taking so many shock attack guns. Is there secret technology with shock attack guns? So shock attack guns used to be absolutely disgustingly overpowered in 8th edition. They got way depowered in the 9th edition codex. So it's a heavy D6 shot, strength 2d6, AP 5 d6 damage blast weapon. If you roll an 11+ on strength, each hit inflicts d3 mortals in addition to normal damage. You still have to hit, though. They're ballistic skill 4, but they're heavy weapons, so if they have to move and shoot, they're hitting on 5s. And that's what's going on. So for 110 points, you get basically an untargetable big gun, but it's very random. It's like Super Necron. It's very much like Necron style. It's 2d6 shots for 2d6 strength for d6 damage. But if you roll that 11 and you get a bunch of hits, they absolutely go ham. But previously, you could jump a bunch of stratagems into it. There was a relic that fired 2d6 shots, I believe, instead of d6. And then you could dump a bunch of stratagems to make it. It got exploding attacks on 5s and shoot again, I think, which stacked all of that together. And you could potentially shoot a 3rd time if you wombo comboed some weird stuff, which was pretty strong. And then if you ended up rolling that 11+ to deal with the mortal wounds in addition to normal damage, it did fucking insano damage. But now we just got 3 of them, which I guess is fine. Obviously, Mark 3 and out, so clearly it can't be that bad. And then Seth Piper with the 5-0. I know Seth's been kind of controversial in the past. I hope he's cleaned up his game a little bit. That is a Calexis Assassin, Grimaldus, Halbrecht, the Emperor's Champions in there as well. Very cool. 1 Infiltrator squad, 1 Assault Intercessor squad. We got a Primaris Crusader squad coming out of the woodwork. Looks like 5 Initiates, the Sword Brother, and 4 Neophytes. So we just added 5 additional Primaris Marines on top of that. I kind of like these guys. There's this sort of annoying brick. You can give them like Stalwart and the 5+ invulnerable save, and then the 5+ damage ignore with the Grimaldus with Litany of Divine Protection. And they're just harder to kill than it feels like their points value should be. We have the correct Obsidian on a Bladeguard Veteran squad with Champion of the Feast and Sword of Judgment. So basically the whole combo that we talked about in the last list, but all on 1 unit. A Justiciar, so you can sort of stand in the middle and project that fight last throughout the whole brick. 2 Redemptor Dreadnoughts to sit by Helbrecht, 1 Primaris Apothecary. Reliquary of Gathalamor, which messes with Psychers in the area. I think gives Psychers a debuff to cast, and then you can extend that aura out. It's been a while since I've seen a Reliquary on the table. The downside is a lot of times in the past you would hit armies that did not have any Psychers, and you kind of weren't doing anything. Yeah, so it's a -1 to cast within 18, and then you take D3 mortal wounds on a 4+ roll if you have failed your psychic power. So there's a chance you kind of perils even if you just fail normally. And so we're stacking that with the Calexis Assassin for a total of -3 to cast. And then we also have, I guess we could, Wise Oratory, or Inspiring Oratory, to get the immune to psychic powers chant out as well from Maldus. And then there's a Vanguard Veteran Squad with Holy Orb. That's a fight last on a stick, which is pretty solid, and a little Eradicator Squad to back up the Redemptor Dreadnoughts. This is a very technical list. I like it. There's a couple small infantry squads to do infantry squad things, but then we have 1 big brick, 2 big bricks, and then the sort of Redemptor Dreadnoughts stapled together basically equates to another one, and then a couple more infantry units to kind of fill gaps, solve problems, as it were. Getting down to it. D-Gen, any thoughts on Salamanders in upcoming arcs of the moment? I think Salamanders are okay. I think, like, Iron Hands are definitely the standout from the Space Marine chapter, from the Space Marine Codex. There's probably some play to Blood Angels and Dark Angels and stuff like that. But I think Salamanders, they sort of side-graded because they went from being a hyper-tanky faction to being sort of extremely lethal damage. And whether or not Salamanders players can find a way to apply that damage is going to be the real question, because they have now, with the ability to go to Tactical Doctrine and then remain in Tactical Doctrine permanently, the biggest downside that they had was your opponent could sort of wait you out until your Tactical Doctrine buff was expired or about to expire, and then you didn't get any benefit from it. And if you built your army around that Tactical Doctrine buff, it really sucked, because suddenly you had all these Flamer and Melting units that weren't doing anything. And that downside of Salamanders, knocking my microphone around. That downside of Salamanders is no longer the case. You can just stay in that Tactical Doctrine, get that buff the entire game, and continue to use those units in a big way. So I think that Salamanders are going to be solid. I don't think they're going to be as good as Iron Hands, don't get me wrong. And I think the exact build that you take is kind of in question. Because they don't have Armor of Contempt anymore, they can't stack defensive buffs quite as well as they did. So I think in the past you took like a big brick of 4 or 5 Assault Centurions. You had Aggressors. Aggressors might be okay now because like you have Transhuman still for them, and they're cheaper. It's only 180 for a 6-model Aggressor unit. And then you can give them buffs from like Apothecaries, from Vulcan Heston. You could pay a CP to get Adrax, I guess, as well, which is something they never had to do. And then you can make that brick super lethal, but you also have to have faster units that are sort of maneuvering around it. So what those look like, I think, is up to the community to find out. But I think if they can build a list that works very well with that style of list construction, I think it's very good. Not to mention the fact as well that obviously having Tactical Doctrine buffs really benefits, and especially buffs on Flamers and Meltas, really benefits having heavy weapons and special weapons in your squad. So all of those combi Flamers, all of those combi Meltas, all of those multi-Meltas that your tactical squads get for free, for example, are all like supercharged. And I think that's a real big benefit as well. Feels like Talon Masters will be sick now. I mean, Talon Masters were always sick. I guess they got out Armor of Contempted a little bit, right? Because the AP value is kind of low. But yeah, I do think Talon Masters is going to be sweet. For sure. Alrighty. Moving on. We got the aptly named New Year's GT. Mixed Chaos list. I think this is just... This is just basically every Chaos faction, actually. Look at this. So it's a Slanesh Demon Patrol, 2 Fiends, 12 Fiends, 20 Demonettes, a Hellflayer, and a Transweaver. And then a Tzeentch Patrol. So we have a Fate Skimmer and a Flux Master with Infernal Flames. And then 2 units of Flamers, so 12 Flamers here. Nurglings, Blue Horrors, and then a we do have an Agent of Chaos, Chaos Knights detachment here with 3 Executioners. It's an interesting list. It's a little technical. A lot of light infantry and very fast units, and then you're just sort of backing it up with the War Dogs, I guess. Seems fine. Corey White, excuse me, the Pure Chaos Demons. Oh, this is Disciples of Bellacor. Hey, we're getting somewhere. This list is wild. So Bellacor, a Changecaster, and a Transweaver. Demonettes, Bloodletters, more Demonettes, and Nurglings. Get that Recover the Relics going. So a ton of light infantry. 2 units of Beasts of Nurgle. Man, people really loving these Beasts of Nurgle in Disciples of Bellacor. They do have a baked-in -1 to be hit because of the sub-faction ability you get from Disciples of Bellacor. And then if your opponent has a hit bonus, you can stack that, I believe, with the Warpstorm ability. So you could be -2 to hit, potentially. Which makes it hard to remove these Beasts of Nurgle at range, and then they just heal back up if you can't kill them by the end of the turn. And then we have 3 units of Flamers. I assume Bellacor is bringing his Shrouded Step. He is! What a guy! We did it! To jump those Flamers around, and then 1 unit of Fleshhounds. And 1 Skull Cannon. That's a cool list. So big Beast of Nurgle brick to sort of back up the back line. That gives you units that can actually stand out in the open and not necessarily just get removed, unlike Demonettes. The number of times I put a Demonette where 1 model could be seen and the entire unit vaporized is very high, but that's not going to be the case for Beast of Nurgle. And then you can just use like Bellacor and Flamers and these Fleshhounds too. Just harass your opponent until those Beasts of Nurgle get up in there. So excited to run Max Nurgle. Is it like triple Soul Grinder, triple Guo Nurgle, Matt? Or quad Guo even? How many Guos we got? Justin Adams playing Word Bearers. Oh man, it's been a while since I've seen Word Bearers on the table. That's cool. Demon Prince with wings. So it's a Nurgle Demon Prince with Go Last to the Decade, Exalted Possession to give them the additional strength and attacks, I believe. A Master of Possession, a second Master of Possession with Master of the Union. I'm gonna have to look up Word Bearer's abilities, chat. It's been a long time since we talked about Word Bearers. Haven't really talked about Word Bearers, I think, since the Codex came out. Everyone was really high on Word Bearers for a hot minute, and then people, I think, realized they're like, guys, Word Bearers are going to be so good because they like reroll their hit rolls on the charge or whatever. They do so much damage, and then they like read the Emperor's Children and Creations of Bile sub-faction abilities, and they're like, oh, never mind. I'm gonna just quickly put this away. But the Possessed in Word Bearers, I think, are better than anyone else's. Maybe on par with Creations of Bile. Yeah, so the Exalted Possession gives a 4+ invulnerable save against ranged attacks, which I think the Demon Prince already has, so that doesn't do anything, but +1 strength attacks and wounds, and +2 move. So he goes to, I believe, a 10-inch move, or 12-inch move, excuse me. And then with Golax goes to 7 attacks? Is that right? Yeah, they start at 6. And he has the big 3 damage weapon, I assume. Yeah, he has the big sword. So for AP 3, the strength doesn't matter because Golax automatically wounds. For AP 3, 4 damage with 7 swings, which is pretty solid. And then the Master of Possession has Master of the Union. So he picks a Demonkin unit within 6. They could get +1 strength and +1 AP in melee. The third guy has Demonic Whispers, which gives them a chance to gain a command point every time they successfully manifest a psychic power. That's cool. You roll a dice and try to get greater than the current battle round number, so it has a better chance of getting it back in the early game. It's a 2+ on round 1, a 3+ on round 2, 4+ on round 3, and then it probably gets tougher, 5 and 6 on rounds 5 and 6. Interestingly, Black Rune of Damnation on a 10 model unit of Possessed, but that's the only Possessed unit we have here. So there's no additional Demonkin beyond this big Possessed brick. We still bring the Chaos Terminator squad with Marcus Lanesh. a Master of Executions, and 3 Venom Crawlers. Okay. give those casters +1 to cast. Let's go. That's an interesting list right there. Pretty good. With Death Guard being considered by a lot of people one of, if not the worst faction in the game, but do I think they need to bump them back in? Oh my god. A new game plan. The problem with, I think that the problem with Death Guard right now is like their game plan is so straightforward. They're just gonna make a big brick and they're gonna move slowly up to the middle of the table, and there's so many factions that just punish that. So they have to be like on par with Heretic Astartes for how difficult they are to kill. You know, if you have a similar build to like the Black Ring of Damnation Terminator Squad, where you can just stack these insane defensive benefits on a single squad, I think that's where they want to be. That's what they want to be doing, but they just have been sort of power crept so hard since the Codex got released. Losing Armor of Contempt really sucks for them. I think they moved to playing more Plague Marines, and you just sort of swarm Plague Marines. So if you're trying to make Death Guard competitive, I think that's the direction you go in. But if I were to say that, like if I were to try to make a way for Death Guard to be played again, I think I would say like give them Dark Apostles. Would be a big one. So you can get the Illusory Supplication on their big Terminator units. Give them more defense against ranged attacks. Because I think right now what's going to happen is they're going to slowly move to the table. They're going to break cover, and then an Astra Militarum army is going to kill everything in their line of sight every turn. And they don't really have a way to stop that. They could kind of keep people's heads down previously by having decent shooting. But the other problem, in addition to the kind of existential issues that they're facing, is that their data sheets in IAC are currently borked, and they've been borked for like a year, where their keywords don't line up, if I remember correctly. And so they break a lot of your faction abilities if you take them, which sucks. Morty with free strategic reserves is cool, but then you gotta go off the table. Off the table edge. That's tough. Armor of Contempt and a damage ignore against mortals. I'll buy that. I do think the number of mortal wounds in the meta is probably going to reduce pretty significantly in Arks of Omen, just because like the things that they've like. Well, I don't know. Because I'm speaking as a Tyrion player, I have significantly less mortals in my armies now that I have 0 to 1 zone throw ups instead of 2+. Reserves are dangerous if you lose initiative and you lose board control. Yeah, it depends on the matchup. I wouldn't say like always or never reserve something. It depends on whether or not the thing that you're reserving is going to be effective on the first turn. If your opponent either is, you know, if you need the flexibility of putting them in an interesting position, then I think that's useful. The other option is if you don't have a place to hide it and your opponent is just going to kill it on the first turn or deal crippling damage to it, there's no reason not to strategic reserve now. So like, you know, Mortarian's a good example because there's so many matchups. Like you play against Astra Militarum, you play against Tau, you play against Leagues of Votan, and you put Mortarion on the table and he's just going to take 12 damage on the first turn, and there's nothing you can do about it. The only way you prevent that is strategic reserving. The other thing that strategic reserve does is it forces your opponent to like move aggressively forward to screen you out, and that for Death Guard that is a benefit because it starts to put people in range of your short range guns. You can suddenly like plague spit on people, and you can use your little gauntlet flamers, bam, 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 and all your the guns off of your plague marine units. So if your opponent's throwing chaff in your way, you just get to kill it for free, which is nice. Whereas sometimes people could just play keep away from Death Guard all game, and if you don't have an objective in the middle of the table, you're just like, well, I get wrecked, I guess. All right, let's move on. Hammer in the New Year. So we have New Year GT and Hammer New Year GT. So much New Year's going on. We got a Blood Angels here. Chris Kishnik. We're going with Kishnik. Or Kieshnik. Kieshnik sounds better. I'm going to be honest. Chris, if that's not your name, it is now. We got Dante. We got a Sanguinary Priest. Sanguinary Priest with Visions of Death and Rites of War. Sometimes we see this on a Captain. That's like the San Procopio build is a Captain with that combo, but today it's on a Sanguinary Priest. But I think it's still very good. So Visions of Death gives you a 3-inch aura that removes objective secured, and then Rites of War obviously gives you a 6-inch aura that grants objective secured. So if you have the Sanguinary Priest positioned sort of in the front of an objective, it's very difficult for your opponent to actually get it, because their stuff will just lose OBSEC, and the Sanguinary Priest will automatically hold the objective by himself, which is very cool. We have an Assault Intercessor squad, an Infiltrator squad, 2 Infiltrator squads, excuse me. A Centurion Assault squad. All right, just this one off the rails. What? I was not expecting that, chat. A Centurion Assault squad, 5 Centurions with Hurricane Bolters and Flamers. So the benefit here is that obviously Blood Angels have to wait 2 turns before Assault Doctrine turns on, so they have to go through... Devastator Doctrine is usually kind of helpful because oftentimes they have a couple heavy weapons in their army. Yeah, they have Eliminators here. Sometimes you have a Whirlwind as well to give the fight last. And then Tactical Doctrine, unless you're Sanguinary Guard or shooting people with their bolt guns, Tactical Doctrine just kind of sucks. And having a Centurion Assault Squad does mean that you can get you get a benefit in Tactical Doctrine. But then I think these guys just like sort of toilet bowl the game in the middle. The downside is that they don't interact very well with Blood Angel's secondary objectives, and I think that's probably a weakness of the list. But you do get a bunch of EP1 shooting. And going on to the into Ark's Bowman, that AP1 shooting is going to be lethal, so it's gonna not too bad. Only 1 unit of Death Company with Thunder Hammers and Jump Packs. A Sanguinary Ancient with Wrath of Baal, so he gets the +2 movement. 3 units of, are we 7 Sanguinary Guard? We are. All of them with swords. No mix of swords and axes here. Chris knows what he likes. He likes Incarmine swords, and he's going to take 21 of them. And then an Assault Squad with some upgrades. Looks like 3 Plasma Pistols and a Lightning Claw in those guys, just to do some actions. And 1 Eliminator Squad, last few seals, and a Bolt Carbine with Quake Bolts. Give reroll 1s onto something that you shoot. As another little helpful unit right there. Oh yeah, yeah, chat. The we were talking about the Death Shroud Terminator's rule change. That is literally what they did in 8th edition. If you had a Death Guard character that it used to be the old bodyguard rule in 8th edition was like Hot Garbo. If you had a character that took damage within 3, you could pass the damage as mortal wounds onto the bodyguard squad, which I believe, if I remember correctly, did have a little bit of synergy with damage ignore rolls, so it was actually a little bit better in Death Guard than it was other places. So sometimes you saw them, because there were a lot of Mortarion builds that were strong. You used to take like the Super Smash Brothers list was Magnus and Mortarion, which, to be honest, if that was still playable, I would be playing the hell out of that list. It was so cool. But the downside would be if Magnus is very difficult to kill, especially if he got his buffs up. Mortarion ended up actually being slightly easier to kill, but you could run Death Shroud Terminators to keep him alive on the first turn. And then he could, if I remember correctly, he could pass wounds off on a 5 to the Death Shroud Terminators that also had a 5+ damage ignore, so you could double dip on it. I know that's how it worked in Tyranids. I did that a couple times in Tyranids. Then Mortarion just instantly outruns his bodyguards. Oh, could you not do that, chat? Oh no, you guys are talking to each other. All right, I don't know what's going on. I mean, but like it was mostly for the first turn. Mortarion isn't that fast though, to be fair. If Mortarion's moving 10 and his bodyguards are advancing, like if they start in front of him and he moves over them, they're going to be in range for at least 2 turns. Oh, you just deep strike them? I guess that also works too. It's like a lot of work. It's a lot of work to not ignore any damage. Like the damage still gets applied to your army, so it was like I guess you have to shoot a slightly harder to kill profile than a Death Shroud Terminator. Like I guess so. Yeah, it was an interesting mechanic, but it was never particularly good. It certainly, I think, like, you could get away now with having Mortarion be bodyguarded, as long as it's like only Mortarion. You can't do it to anybody else. But I think that's because Mortarion's been crept so hard. But like we've been dealing with and/or enjoying bodyguarded super characters in Tyranids for long enough. I think we could get away with it in Death Guard. That would be a good way to make Death Guard better, is you give Mortarion actual bodyguard, you give him lookouts there, and suddenly I think the game gets a lot more interesting. Alright. Where are we at? New Year's GT. No. Hammer in the New Year. Stephen Page played Necrons. This is an OBSEC Dynasty list. There's some Scorpack Destroyers. There is a Transcendent Catan. Immediately we're off to a good start. Chronomancer, more Scorpacks, 3 Scarabs, 3 Team Blades. Okay, well, got less exciting. I should savor these lists. This is a very Nephilim list that we will never see. It will never see its like again. So I shouldn't immediately click off anymore, right? We got 6 Scorpacks. That's cool. There's a Transcendent Catan. There's the Silent King in with a different dynasty. Amazing. Remember when you could do that? A Veil of Darkness Chronomancer, some more Scorpacks, and they all got rerolls from the Silent King, and they had OBSEC. Incredible. Plus a bunch of Scarab Swarms, plus a bunch of Tomb Blades. Those aren't going away. The Tomb Blades got cheaper. Still play those guys for sure. Matt Shuckman playing as Ynnari. This is Ulthway with Eldrad Ulthran. Excited to see him. A Farseer Skyrunner with the Gotem of Alashazir, so a natural 9+ to cast a spell. It becomes undeniable. Helps to get those psychic actions off. Although I do think some people are kind of dropping these just because Psychic Interrogation isn't quite as easy as it was. But you can still Ritual with it. And if we have Quicken elsewhere in the list, which we do, we can run that guy up, do our Warp Ritual, pull him back. Although those Skyrunners did go up a little bit of points, right? Not too many, though. 2 units of Howling Banshees, 1 with Piercing Strikes, 1 with Nerve Shredding Shriek. No Crone Scream, though. Unit of Shroud Runners, some Swooping Hawks. Only 5? Interesting. A Falcon. A 2nd Patrol Detachment with an Avatar of Cain and Behareth. 2 units of 5 Dire Avengers, 1 unit of Rangers, 1 unit of Vipers, 2 more Falcons. So really, kind of leaning on that Ulthway floating reroll on all of these vehicles between the Vipers, the Falcons, and these smaller squads. But I think we have I guess we don't have a Will of Azirian. Oh, we do on the Farseer Skyrunner. So we do have a Will of Azirian in the list, so that we can push out the OBSEC units, so we can just have these units become objective secured, become fearless, and just run to people's objectives all day, and you just trade one-on-one. But I've got 5-0. Congratulations to Matt. It's cool to see not either like custom sub-faction or not Ynnari coming out of as Ynnari these days, so don't see those guys too often. Topeka Open had some Necrons. This is another OBSEC list. This one starts with 2 Plasma Sites. Double Plasma Site, double Chronomancer. Another Transcendent Catan, Scorpic Destroyers, a bunch of Scarab Swarms. Looks like 23 Scarab Swarms. Not going... Oh, we are going kind of all in on the Scarab Swarm combo. We have the Chronomancers to give them the 5+, Invulnerable Save, Canoptic Spiders to repair them, but what we're missing is the Reanimator to give them a 4+. We'll be back. Ophidian Destroyers. Looks like 2 units of 3. Pretty classic for the OBSEC lists. Another unit of 6. And a 2nd Transcendent Catan. No Silent King. I think we've just replaced the Silent King with the Transcendent Catan, right? Yeah. He's nowhere to be found. But we do have a Technomancer as well to repair some of those guys. I don't think he can repair the Scarabs, but he can repair the Destroyers. Along with a unit of Heavy Destroyers with Destructors. That's an interesting list. So it's trying much more to gum up the center and then dump mortal wounds into it with the Transcendent Catan, which is a little bit more straightforward than the, or it's a little bit more aggressive, I guess, than the normal, very dodgy kind of trading game that we typically see from Necrons. All right, John Johnston, 5-0 an event. This is at Topeka Open still. Kraken and using Wreathed in Shadow, which I think is the no Overwatch, which is kind of, I've been seeing more events playing this, or more lists playing this biomorphology. I think specifically as an answer to Tzeentch Flamers. Yeah, you can't Overwatch or set to defend against the sub-faction. So we're losing our +1 to charge, but it means you don't have to ever cast Paroxysm on somebody to stop them from Overwatching you, which is like pretty handy. There's a lot of situations. I mean, specifically Flamers. It's a very good answer to Flamers, to be fair. Tyranid units aren't the greatest at killing Flamers because they don't tend to have quite the right damage. You need kind of high volume damage 3 to kill them. Which Tyranids don't really have. They have a lot of like 2 damage and 1 damage, which gets bounced on the Demonic Invulnerability. But they can still get there. And as soon as you engage those guys and you start putting debuffs and denies on Bellacor, you can make it difficult for him to pull the unit out of engagement. And so those Flamers get shut down if you can engage them, which is fine. Now this list, I think, was, Wargames live streamed this one. So if you could go check out that channel, you can see this one in action. But it's a Turvagon, Winged Hive Tyrant, with a Reaper of Obliterax, a Neurothrope, 30 Termagant Brick to stand next to the Turvagon, a couple of Tyranid Warriors, 2 units of 3. We got a double units of 3 Tyrant Guard. That's so popular these days. I think it's just that we have this Hive Tyrant bouncing between Tyrant Guard units now. Alongside a Parasite of Mortrax, 5 additional Raveners, 3 Biovores, RIP, and a Spore Assist, also RIP. So this list lost 30 points in Tyrant Guard. You just changed the Warrior loadout. 75 points in Raveners, so that's 105. And 60 points in Zoanthrope, so 165 points, but it has 220 points of Spore Mine Generators. So if you cut all those, it's basically the same list. Except the Winged Hive Tyrant becomes worthless, so sad. I'm sad for you, Tyranids. And then last but certainly not least, the Heroes Mini GT. We had Sweet Lou with Necrons here, but then we have a bunch of Imperial Knights to talk about, which is pretty fun. Starting pretty strong here. So it is OBSEC Dynasty. With a Chronomancer, 12 Necron Warriors. Interesting. So these guys do get double OBSEC. You don't actually see that very often in OBSEC Dynasty stuff. Everyone's like, I'll take the single OBSEC, it's fine. But 12 Necron Warriors sitting on a backline objective is very difficult to steal that objective from. Even if there's a couple alive and you can't quite get through the reanimation, they're like kind of 6 or 8 models. So it'll just steal it from you. A Catan Shard of the Nightbringer, which is not an entry that we see that often. Plus a unit of Scorpec Destroyers, 6 Scorpecs. 1 unit of Scarab Swarms, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 Tomb Blades with Shadow Looms, a Chronomancer, 5 Immortals, 5 Death Marks. What is this list? It's all over the place. Plus a second Transcendent Catan. This is just a normal Transcendent Catan. 1 unit of Scarab Swarms, 1 unit of Canoptic Wraiths, and the Silent King himself. So yeah, this is this like a... Did we have to take like a Highlander list? Like there can be only one. It's 1 Warriors, 1 Nightbringer, 1 Transcendent Catan, 1 Scorpic Destroyer, 1 Scarab Swarm, 1 Tomb Blade, 1 Death Mark. Oh, there's another Scarab Swarm. We broke it. And then 1 Wraith, Silent King. That's wild. That's, again, another very technical list. Every time you see a list like this, you know that the person who's playing it probably knows what they're doing because there's very They very specifically selected roles for each of those units. So like, I need one of these to fulfill this very specific role. And it's certainly helpful in Necrons, where you can have these units with very similar stats, like Canoptic Wraiths versus Tomb Blades versus Ophidian Destroyers versus Scorpic Destroyers are all sort of one different on a different axis. Whereas they do more damage, they're more survivable, they're faster, they're cheaper. And then because you basically assign whichever unit what role you need when you're trying to go complete your secondary objectives, gives you a lot of options. And then we have a ton of Imperial Knights to talk about. So Aaron Kalman and Jacob Anglin, both X1 with Imperial Knights. So we're going to talk about some Imperial Knights for a bit. We had a lot of Imperial Knights to talk about here in chat. Commander Cha-Cha, I hope you enjoyed this episode because there was a ton of Imperial Knights going around. So let me pull out my Imperial Knights here. I was reviewing these lists ahead of time, and I think they're both relatively similar. Yeah, they're actually both almost identical. So we don't really have to talk about both, to be fair. Are they actually both identical? Oh my god, they are. Yeah. These are the same list. Incredible. I didn't even notice that beforehand. All right, so it saves us some time. Well, there's something to be said for this list. So it's House Tyrannus. So they get a 6-up against mortal wounds, and it's a Questor Mechanicus detachment, or Questor Mechanicus subfaction. So they get additional wounds, +1 on the little guys, +2 on the big guys, and they regenerate a wound every turn. It is 1 unit of 2 Helverins with the Bastard's Helm, a set of Warglaves, and then a single Moirax with the Graviton Pulsar. Now, if I remember correctly, the Graviton Pulsar is like sort of a super grav weapon that gets additional damage based on the saving throw of the target. Yeah, so it starts at a D6 shot, strength 6, AP3 2 damage, and goes to 3 damage on a 3+ save. That also comes with a Rad Cleanser, so he has a 2+ Poison Flamer for 3 damage, which is very good against monsters and demons. I mean, you can imagine demons hate that thing. They just get vaporized. And we actually saw, for a hot minute, we would see Megaras that were just spamming Rad Cleansers everywhere, which are absolutely brutal. Absolutely disgusting in Overwatch, too. But plus he gets a Siege Claw, which is, it's -1 to hit, but strength 14, D6 damage, D6 +2 against vehicles, which is pretty good. So anyway, it's House Tyrannus, so they also get Darkest Hour, so they can come back to life. You coming here? You coming to hang out, Inky? Hi. I'm doing a show. Oh, okay. Hello. So you can sit on my lap. There you go. So they can come back to life on a 4+ when they die, instead of if they don't explode, and instead of using any other abilities. And then we have the big knights. So there's a Knight Errant with Master of Vox. So the Knight Errant can give +1 to advance and charge to the War Dogs, and he has Master of Vox, so when he gives out that ability, he can do it anywhere on the table. So it really buffs the Warglaves, because it gives them that speed boost, even if they're sort of ranging ahead of the Errant. Then there's a Knight Castellan. This guy has Forge Master, which gives him a defensive buff on the first turn, as long as he's in his own deployment zone. You're going to keep knocking into my my microphone? No, you're just going to drape yourself over my arm so I can't use my mouse. Fair enough, Inky. I see how it is. I am going to refresh myself on the ability. I literally just read it and now I can't remember it. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, so it gives it a damage reduction as long as it's within your deployment zone. So for a Castellan, which is a big knight that's going to be sitting in the back and shooting a lot, certainly helps. And definitely helps on the first turn because, you know, the big knights can't be obscured. They're probably in line of sight. Your opponent's going to dump a bunch of shooting into them. And as long as it hasn't moved anywhere, it's going to be fine. A little bit awkward because we have taken or we're probably taking the secondary to take objectives, which requires that you don't move backwards, so that Forge Master character can't really move very far. If he moves forward, he can't then move backwards if you don't want to lose VP. So that is a little awkward, but I think it's probably fine. And then that gives you, yeah, that's what that does. It's just -1 damage, basically. It also gives you an additional bondsman ability, but the Castellan doesn't have a bondsman ability to start with. So that is what's up. So 2 identical lists that bring that combo, which is interesting. I don't think I've seen a... that's not wrong. That's not true. I mostly see Freeblade Lances. But I hadn't seen a House Tyrannus list in a while, so it's interesting to see that do pretty well twice in one event. I wonder if there's a meta game that's like very conducive to this. This is like one Imperial Knights list is going around this little meta here and just destroying everyone. Not a huge fan of the Dominus Knights. Have a lot of shooting, but so many points and no bondsman hurts. Yeah, I agree with that for sure. Especially since like you end up losing the Warglaves, though the Armigers so quickly, especially if you don't have any defensive buffs on them. You can give them the -1 damage just applies as soon as as soon as the Little Knights get bonded, but I think that there is an upgrade to give them a 4+ invulnerable save, and I don't know if we've taken that, right? Yeah, I don't think that it is on these guys. Yeah, the Errant just has fight first and a 4+ invuln, a permanent 4+ invuln. So the Armigers are, I mean, they're -1 damage, but that's about all they have going for them, and they probably get shredded pretty quickly, which means that you have to eventually get stuck in with the big knights, and the Errant's good at that, especially if it can come back to life once per game. But the Castellan isn't. I think if you only have a Castellan remaining, it's going to kill a bunch of stuff, but it's not going to be very good at holding objectives. Although we do have, like, it can become 10 model obsec, so you can hold 1 objective, but if the rest of your army's dead, it doesn't really do that much. But I think the game plan is to not have that happen. Just kill your opponent. Easy peasy. Oh, it's Herald is the name of the ability? Oh, yeah, that is what it is. That one's so good. That's the one that gives me fits every time I play against Knights. Like every once in a while, the little Arbiter's like -1 damage, 4+ invuln, and it just spikes a bunch of saves, and you're just like, okay, I guess you live. Unfortunate. You always have to over allocate to kill those little guys, and it's absolutely nightmarish. And then because you play lay low the tyrants, is that the one? To give them an additional 3 model obsec. If you don't kill them on an objective, they end up just like holding it forever. It is Defend the Realm, excuse me. Once you go Virtuous and Defend the Realm, so if you have 5 or more honor points, then the Armigers become 8 model objectives secured, and the big Knights become 10 model objectives secured, and it gets like extremely difficult to take objectives away from those guys. So stacking all the defensive buffs on one of them is absolutely brutal. I played against, I think, the toughest game I played against Imperial Knights is a very cool subfaction a local of mine plays, where they play Strike and Shield. It's a subfaction ability that gives you Trans Hitman and Melee. It is Strike and Shield. So AP 1 is reduced to AP 0, and in Melee, 1, 2, or 3 rolls of hit automatically fail. So you get -1 damage, you get Trans Hitman, and you get a 4+ invulnerable save, all stacked up on one Armiger. And then if that Armiger is Virtuous and stands on an objective, that guy is like super difficult to kill if you don't have mortal wounds. Like, that's what you need to kill them. But even so, they're going to be taking your objectives and playing very aggressively, and it's like absolutely brutal. And I think that level of defensive stacking on top of units that are objective secured and have incredible secondaries is why I think Knights are going to be insane in the new season. I think for a hot minute, until we see a nerf to Imperial Guard or to Astra Militarum, I think Astra Militarum are going to keep these kind of armies down a little bit because they're going to shoot them to death. But after Astra Militarum get rotated slightly, I think that Imperial Knights are going to be crazy good. That's just my opinion, though. We'll see. We'll have to see how it goes. It could be. It could be good. I don't know. That's what I think. Anyway, chat. That's all the events for the last couple of weeks. All the events over the holidays. Last week I was pretty busy. People are coming back into it. This coming week I think is going to be busy as well. But I don't know if we want to talk about I don't know if we want to continue to talk about Nephilim events, right? Because it's like kind of old hat. So I think we might do some like list breakdowns of Arks of Omen lists or something next week instead of going through the normally scheduled thing. But it's good to get back on the normal list review schedule because we haven't done that in a while. And we got a bunch of exciting events coming up. We got some freaking LVO coming up. Yeah, it's good stuff. So anyway, chat, I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up here momentarily. If anybody has any more questions or comments, go ahead and drop them in the chat there. But otherwise, I'm going to sign out. So thanks everyone for coming and chilling. I had a great time. Hope everyone else had a great time. It was fun to read through the last hurrah of Nephilim lists. I think I'm gonna miss Nephilim. Nephilim, for me anyway, was kind of like tarnished by the Tyranid Codex. I think there was a hot minute where Tyranids were sort of, I don't know, it was a roller coaster ride of emotions because when they released, they were unspeakably garbage, or they unspeakably overpowered. And then that was kind of disheartening. And then they moved to like their Leviathan build, and that was kind of boring. Towards the end there, things got interesting, but you had to play a very specific list, and it was very difficult to play against very passive armies. So my games in Nephilim were kind of tough, but I think Nephilim, at least pre the last data slate, like pre-Tyranid release, probably was like some of the most balanced 40k that we've ever had. So don't mind OP stuff. Yeah, it just depends on like how OP it is and in what dimension it's overpowered, right? I think like Necrons were a good example of kind of like OP in an interesting way because they were OP at specifically scoring objective points, but they didn't really do anything else very well. So I think that's interesting and fun in this counterplay. If it's OP like Release Tau or something where they just kill you, all right, cool. What if I have people drop Omen lists in their Discord and review them? I think what we might do is just like, I'd like to assemble. We've been posting about it in the Discord for a while, but I'd like to assemble a bunch of like Arks of Omen lists, like sort of that are perspective or what people should expect to see. And I think either I'll do a video about that or we'll talk about it next week. I'm not sure. I have a whole week to think about it, so trust me. We'll get something good for next week. All right. Yeah, come hang out with me in the Discord, everybody. I'm going to be continuing to be live later on this week, probably either with live games. I've been playing some games, and especially this weekend, I have a little bit more time over the weekends, and I can play some games over on the Twitch channel. But otherwise, I'm going to be playing some Dark Tide as well, so you can hang out with me doing that. Whoa. I'm also going to have a lot of content coming out. I'm basically, so just to sort of, I guess we keep people posted on what I'm up to right now. Post-holiday season, my sort of normal work dried up a little bit. I don't have current projects that I'm working on, so I'm basically putting full time into the channel currently. So I'm doing clip videos over on the TacticalTortoise TV. I'm going to try to do those every day. I have videos coming out probably every 2 days. Is going to be average on this channel, and then I'm going to be I would like to do a short once a week. On top of that, Invitational is coming up. The T5S2 season ends on the 15th. I have a ton of work to do for that. The Invitational itself is going to be in February, and I have to release a schedule for that. We're going to be doing new maps. We're going to be doing a whole thing. It's going to be awesome. So, yeah, come hang out with me for that. If you watched the video earlier today, you probably heard about Captain Con. That's coming up in February, first weekend of February as well. And I'm going to be streaming that on the channel too. Just got some new cameras I'm very excited about, so that's going to be fun. So I hope you enjoy all the content. Yeah, we're just gonna be going ham on it. So that's what's going on. And if you like it, please consider supporting me because for a hot minute, I think it's gonna be my only source of income, and I'd like to just see how that goes. The hope is that I can take it full time in a more serious way later this year, but we're not quite there yet. But everybody who helps support the channel goes a long way. All right, and with that, everyone, I'm gonna go ahead and. Inky, did you just yell at me? Are you yelling right now? All right, she wants me to get off the stream, so I'm gonna do that. See you, everybody. Remember to keep it classy, folks, and